Welcome to the Gypsy Nurses Fall 22 Virtual Conference. We are so happy you could join us yet again for another educational yet fun few days. This year, we will be focusing on a new season of travel nursing. We will have 9 travel healthcare industry experts giving their insights and advice on how you can turn a new leaf in travel nursing, whether you're new to the adventure or have hiked a mountain or two of assignments already. All of these sessions will be on demand on the gypsynurse.com. You can find these events by coming up to the event tab and clicking on demand events. So you can watch this any place, anytime, any assignment, any location. They will be there for you. While you're at the gypsynurse.com, be sure to become a registered member and join our online community, where when you sign up, you'll be able to sign up for job alerts, content alerts, and even event alerts, as well as receive discounts on CEUs, car rentals, and on the infamous TravCon 2023 tickets, which don't forget to save the date for next year's largest in-person travel healthcare conference in beautiful Las Vegas, September 17th through the 20th, 2023 at the Paris. We hope to see most of you that are watching in person next year, so that way we can put some faces to some names and get to really know our community in person. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Nurse First, for being this year's virtual conference sponsor. We would like to take a minute to learn a little bit more about Nurse First, so enjoy. Nurse First is a travel staffing agency that is focused on putting nurses first so nurses can focus on what matters most. Nurse First is different because the agency is founded and staffed by former nurses, so they know what you need. They are committed to creating a culture of agency with nurse, not agency versus nurse. Nurse First takes you where you want to go in your life and career. How? Nurse First promotes trusting partnerships among travelers and staff through genuine advocacy and transparency. This means telling you everything, even the information you didn't know you needed. With a team dedicated to advocating for nurses, travelers can find success anywhere they go and the assignments of their dreams. Nurse First Travel Agency founder and CEO, Jeremy Camiso, is our conference keynote speaker this year because Nurse First is leading the change for a positive employment culture for travel nurses. Nurse First encourages travel nurses to take charge of their own work schedule to best fit their lifestyle and family needs. Nurse First turns travel nurse staffing opportunities into incredible employment experiences. Learn more about this travel agency at nursefirsttravel.com. Your assignments change, but you want your friends to stay the same, or at least find some that are a little bit similar on your next assignment. And you're probably wondering how to stay connected while traveling, as well as creating new friends. Well, we have just the perfect person to share the tips and tricks for you for staying connected while traveling and creating new friends. Please welcome our travel nurse mentor, ReyAnn Moya. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, as we looked at you and we're like, what better person? You're always in the community, always in the comments and all over social media. So you're a great person and resource. So for those of you that don't know who ReyAnn is, she's going to tell you a little bit about herself so that way you can get to know her a little better.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. So my name is ReyAnn. I'm originally from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've been a nurse for 8 years now, but 3 years in the travel world and travel gang. I am currently in Seattle, Washington. I should actually be heading out pretty soon. I had my last day yesterday, so I'm really sad to leave here, but off to a new assignment. And I'm an ER travel nurse. I've been doing majority ER through my whole career. And I just love this lifestyle still. It's very much a part of me, and I'm happy to be on this chat.
Awesome. Well, we're just going to dive right in, talking about, your different assignments and going to new ones. How often do you talk to the people that you've met on previous assignments?
So I got really lucky in that the travel nurse community out here in Washington is probably one of the best that you can find and one of the best around. the way I keep in contact with them, of course. I mean, the way you asked how I met them, or how.
Well, how often do you still talk to everybody that you've met through your assignments in the past years?
Yeah, so like I think most people do these days, we definitely get each other's handle, we get each other's number, we follow each other. It depends on the relationship that I create with that person on those assignments. But typically, I actually just checked in with a couple of my friends today or this morning who I've had on previous contracts and just see how they're doing. So I know at the end of my assignment, they're probably ending their assignment. But I chat with them almost on a weekly basis. And of course, the travel nurses that I work with at my location, it's so fun to like work with like-minded individuals and people who just understand the lifestyle. So pretty much weekly.
Awesome. That's really nice to just check in and talk. Have you made any really close friends while traveling?
I have. So, excuse me, where I think I found the majority of my really close friends is actually at TravCon. And
Really? Awesome.
it was, and of course on my assignments. It's been mostly people reaching out to me. So one of my good friends, JJ, he reached out to me randomly one day on Instagram Messenger, and we kind of just hit it off. And that created just like a beautiful friendship. But I met a lot of really, really amazing people at TravCon. There's like that's like the hub of where you're going to find a lot of traveling healthcare professionals, and you get to know them on a deeper level. You get to hang out with them, really understand what they're about. And I've met a lot of my really close friends that way.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you could find it there. And yeah, it is such like a different environment. It's different than, everyone's just there to have fun and learn. And so it's just like you guys are all on the same level and end up being friends.
Yes, I typically I'm one of those people that I really don't like work is work and play is play, and I really am picky about who I spend my time with, which I think everyone should be, but
Yeah.
very particular because I don't want like, to me to establish a friendship at work and then not that I cause problems or the other person would cause problems, but we'd have like a riff or something and then it's like not a good environment to be at work. So I've always been very diligent about like work is work, play is play. But if I do establish those relationships with those people, it makes it a better work environment, and the camaraderie is definitely one of my favorite things.
Nice. Now, when you said like, causing rifts and stuff, have you ever had like became friends with somebody at a hospital and then you're like, ooh, we cannot be friends anymore?
Unfortunately, there was one situation that I did run into, and I would say we're on mutual terms right now. Like I'm really very low key, like no drama type person. So even when that happened, I was like, wow, I haven't had this happen to me since like honestly high school. So it's really interesting territory to like come across again in my older years. But it just is what it is. Like the travel community is so small that everyone kind of knows everyone, and we had a falling out, but it's no hard feelings at all. I think we're going in different directions. It was a very temporary friendship, but we got through it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, do you ever plan your assignments or vacation to go with your friends that you've met?
So I haven't yet, but I do plan and kind of coordinate my assignments based off of maybe if I do know somebody there, does make it a lot easier because traveling to a location where you don't know anybody has its pros and it has its cons, but it's always those first 2 to 3 weeks when you go to an assignment where you don't know anybody, where you're just sitting in your bed and you're like, what am I doing? Like you just feel that sense of loneliness, and that's one of the biggest pain points in travel nursing. But it's also a great opportunity to explore hanging out by yourself and really diving deep into like personal development, which I think that's something that's not talked about enough, is a personal development in the travel nurse world. But yeah, that just is what it is.
I know it's kind of like interesting because I've traveled a lot like alone just for, for working here and stuff. And like going to dinner by yourself is like that, like booking a reservation for one and they're like, just you. I'm like, yep, just me.
Yeah.
The window, please. But I mean, sometimes it's fun because if you sit up at the bar, then you create friends there too.
For sure. It definitely opens you up to like finding new friends, right? Like not just finding friends that are in the travel nurse community. And it is nice because they understand the lifestyle, they understand everything that comes along with it, but also meeting people in those destinations that you otherwise wouldn't have met because you were hanging out with your friends or you were, in a comfortable group and you would never reach out and talk to new people. So again, it has its pros and its cons, but Washington, I know, has some of my favorite people out here. So when I came back to Washington, I said, yes. I actually had a little moment last night when I was like, wow, I'm really sad to leave here because that sense of community is so important to me, especially now that I'm getting older. Obviously spending more time with my parents and like my really close friends. So leaving here it's a bittersweet situation, but I know that I'll keep in close contacts with them.
I'm sure. And I'm sure you'll be back too.
Yeah, in time. This is my favorite place to be.
Oh, this is like, you feel like this one's like the best place for travelers. Where's like probably like the loneliest like assignment location that you've been on?
I would say I don't think I've necessarily run into one that's been super lonely, but my very first assignment, just navigating like the newness of being a travel nurse without knowing what the community is all about, that's really tough. I know that kind of more rural contracts are hard because there's not, maybe you're the only travel nurse on that assignment, or maybe there's only a couple and like they're older and they have kids. Like it really depends on the situation. But I've thankfully only had that, like, it happens at every assignment, but I've only had that real lonely feeling on my first assignment where I was like, whoa, did I just make the biggest mistake that I could have? It's an awful feeling, but it helps you grow. It really does. It pushes you to be better.
I'm sure. And now you're just flourishing and just going. And
it's crazy to look back, honestly. Even at TravCon this year, I was like, wow, this is where it started. I kept telling myself, like, this is where it started. This is how I've gotten so deep in the travel community and, helped people along the way and provided information. So I'm extremely grateful.
That's awesome. And a lot of people go there alone too.
Yes.
And so it's even better because everyone's just like kind of like huddling together and, just finding a friend. So
yeah, I went alone my first year, and that's actually how I met my roommates, which is Ryan Sandow and Emily Chang. Yeah, and we just literally hit it off, and those are some of my very close friends. So there's a lot of benefit to doing things by yourself. You just run into really great opportunities.
That's awesome. Now, do you think it's important to find like a friend or community on each assignment? Or are you kind of okay with like, okay, if I don't make any friends, if I don't find anybody to hang out with, it's okay? Or do you think it's really important to have that kind of atmosphere?
I think it depends on the person, but I do really think that community, especially in this line of field, is really important. The reason being, this job can be really hard, number one. This lifestyle can be really hard, number two. And just building that sense of community can really make or break your experience. Some people are also introverted, and a lot of them will start travel nursing and want to find that community because they want to break out of their shell. But there are also just really introverted people who don't want to make any friends at all. And I think that both are okay. But yeah, now that I'm getting older, I think that sense of community is really, really important because you want to build those relationships over time. And hopefully they'll be some of your best people that you've had in your life.
Yeah.
Because I have like my best friends back home in New Mexico who have known me since like high school, middle school, even younger. And then I have these ones who have seen me in like the newest, version of myself, and how I'm going to continue to grow in that way. So finding community, especially as you get older, is important. Just that's my answer. Where I find community, and I know we talked about this before, is through the MedVenture app. That's a place that is like a very up and coming app. Very, very strong with building community and maintaining that community. And then I actually help run an Instagram page called Travel Nurse Takeover with my friend Ryan and Sierra. And that is also a page where we have Instagram chats where we have Seattle, Boston, San Francisco, San Diego. We have like a bunch of the major hubs and cities. And of course you can reach out if there's like a bigger city where there's like more travel nurses and you want to like have that sense of community within the chat and meetup. So it excels your experience, I think, as a travel nurse.
Oh yeah, definitely. On these platforms that you use, how do you stay safe? Are they a pretty safe platform, or do you kind of have to be cautious or anything?
So thankfully with Instagram, you can just like click on people's profiles. And the majority of the time, I think when people are meeting up, it's usually in a group setting, but there are plenty actually of people who have met just like one-on-one, like, hey, let's go on a hike. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go out to the bar. Like, let's just go to the beach. Let's go have a good time. And no negative feedback. I mean, thankfully, no one's really said that they've felt unsafe. On the MedVenture app, it looks kind of like a Tinder type app, but it's not. There is a dating feature on there, but it's definitely not like Tinder. So you can see their profile, where they work, how old they are, if they're looking to date, if they're not looking to date. And then you can also just have a chat feature on the MedVenture app, at least, to just like chat with a person and kind of get comfortable with them before maybe you meet up with them. But the majority of the people in the travel world are just down to have an adventure and a good time and just want to meet other people. So far, so good. Not saying it probably doesn't happen, but in my personal experience and the experience of, I think, the people who have used Travel Nurse Takeover messaging and MedVenture app, I've actually only heard really good things. Like, I've met some of my best friends on here, or at the time of my life camping with, this group. So only positive reviews as of now.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're right. Like, I think just like the adventurous side is like they're seeking each other out. And I think you can kind of catch that vibe too. Like, there's things that you can be like, all right, you're being kind of creepy and you're not going to go hiking. Like,
exactly.
It's going hiking. Like, I see it's being weird. So I think, like travelers are like very specific, like this location at this time, we have all these people going and all that stuff. So I think you can kind of probably also tell by their vibe and their energy when they're talking.
And if you do, let's say you're in a more secluded or rural location, it's only you and one other person, like meet in a very public, area, go have coffee first, get to know them, and then you can figure out whether you trust them or not. But thankfully, like I said, it's been nothing but like, positive reviews so far, which is really great. And I do think because the travel nurse community is so small, I think you mess it up once, you kind of mess it up for like word gets around very quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I know definitely like in our network group and other places, like they throw out a warning, like this person's not a good person, this person's fake. And they give you like an idea too. So, I think everyone's looking out for each other, and that's what's also amazing about this community is everyone's just there for everybody.
Absolutely.
So when you are looking for your community, when you go to a new location, do you instantly have to have a friend, like you're desperately looking, or do you wait and see how things go at the hospital and where you live and all of that?
So I've acclimated and was prior to very good at just spending time by myself. I did a lot of solo travel, international, even before I started travel nursing. So being alone and traveling alone is not foreign to me. Again, this is just my personal answer. I am not necessarily looking for friends right out the gate. Again, I think I mentioned that I'm like really, really, really diligent and particular on who I let into my life and my circle and who I like share my energy with. But if we just happen, like I've met so many people, thankfully, where I just meet them and I'm like, ooh, I vibe with you. And then people who I'm like, ooh, I vibe with you and I want to hang out with you, like outside of work, because it's not always the case. You will meet so many people on this journey and you will only vibe with maybe 2 out of like 20. And that's totally okay. Even one person makes a huge difference. But no, for me personally, I'm not like looking for friends. I think that thankfully I've established my core circle of the people who I really love and care about in this community. And it does make me excited. Like, wow, I've already met so many like close friends now. I can't imagine how many more amazing, like close relationships I'm going to build in the future. But if I don't, I think that's also great. I do think that there's a sense of if you go into something with the expectation, like especially a high expectation that you're going to meet someone and it doesn't happen, it makes you really disappointed. And you're like, wow, I didn't even make any friends on this assignment. You just have to be very realistic with yourself. So
yeah,
the expectation things I think can be tough.
Yeah, and I think being too eager and being like, hey, you want to hang out, that might be a little off-putting for people to be like, you're kind of too much. You just got here and you want to like go out to lunch. Like,
right. For me, I think how I view what you just said is if you think that, because I think that travel nurses, they really do have to be eager in order to make friends. Like if you're really trying to make friends and if those people are like, you're too much, you're like, you're just not my person. You're just not the person I want to hang out with. Because yes, sometimes like I could see it as like an annoyance, right, for certain staff, or maybe other travelers are like, I am introverted. I just want to do my own thing, or I don't want new friends, or I'm not interested. But then there's other people that you'll find that are interested and want to hang out with you and will make the effort. So
definitely. Now, have you ever picked an assignment because you knew it was a social city, sort of like, Washington? Is there any other cities that you go to that you're like, ooh, I know there's a bunch of people there too?
So I'm going to be starting a contract close to like the Santa Cruz area for this next assignment, and it's probably far away from a lot of people that I know, except the San Francisco area, which I've been before. But I was planning on going to San Diego because I knew that the community was so strong out there as well. So I've been trying to plan this last assignment, or I was trying to plan my this current assignment, in the hopes that I would go to San Diego and hopefully establish like a really good community out there, or just be a part of the community that's already there. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but the answer is yes. It's become very important to me to be close to the community.
That's awesome. And I have faith that you'll get there one day. And I'm sure they're all just waiting for you. They're like, when's ReyAnn getting here?
It's a very, very popular destination. Even next year, my plan for the summertime is to go up to Alaska. I've been dreaming since I started this journey to head to Alaska. And it's like, hopefully my time next year. And I met a couple of really awesome people that have already been there. And they're like, yeah, we're planning on going next summer. Let's just all like huddle a group together and like get everybody out there. So that is also a huge benefit on people who you like plan assignments with, which I'm not used to. And I even if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to get super bummed about it, because the job market's a little bit tough to have like, 5 ER nurses in the same ER at the same time. But that particular friend has already worked at that ER. So I'm like, ooh, this is a sure win for me to hopefully get into this assignment. Oh, I guess we can talk about that too. Unfortunately, because the travel market is what it is at the moment when it comes to jobs, just like it is a little oversaturated. No hate or anything. There's a lot of travel nurses out in the travel nurse world right now. It's harder to come by jobs, especially in like highly sought out destinations. So it's nice meeting people who have worked at a certain contract, or who have someone who they know at that hospital who can help get you into that hospital, which is really cool, because it actually happened to me at the hospital that I'm at right now. I referred a couple of my good friends, and otherwise they wouldn't have seen those job positions open up at that hospital. So I'm all about, helping people out. I'm all about getting people to great hospitals or, facilities that they want to work at. So it's also another huge benefit to being really close in this community.
Yeah, definitely. You're like, hey, what's your hookup?
Exactly. I'm like, not in a using way, but hey, do you have like some hookups in this hospital?
Right? Like, I really
housing. Housing is another big one too, especially in the Washington area. It's
really
out here.
So it's good to know somebody too with the housing.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in like very sought out places like Seattle.
Gotcha. Good to know. Take note. So when it comes to current and past friendships, what's the first thing you do when you get to a new assignment? Do you tell all your friends that you're there? Do you kind of put something on social and say like, hey, I'm out here. Anybody else out here? Is there something you would do?
Once I sign my contract, because it's never set in stone until you actually sign that contract. I'll actually post on Instagram like, hey, I just finished my last day here at this assignment. Guess where I'm heading next? And I'll put a little like questions box, and people can like guess where I'm going. I actually need to do that today. I got a bunch of comments yesterday like San Francisco, New Mexico, like all these places. And I'm like, nope, no one guessed it. Obviously, this is a very small facility that I'm about to work at. But then I'll share with a couple of people the region or the area that I'll be working. I never really give away where I work, because sometimes they're just creepy internet people, and I just don't need people knowing exactly where I'm going to be. But I do send all of my new friends, or not my new friends. I do send all of my friends and my family my new address. I'm like, hey, if you want to come visit me at any point, I don't have my schedule yet, but I'm happy to make time for you, and please come visit whenever you want.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do any of your friends share, like if you have an iPhone, which I know you do, share like locations at all?
Yes. So I have a running list now. I have, I think, about 10 or 12 of my like close friends, and half of them are my travel friends, which is really funny because I just try to peep on them every once in a while, like, hey, I wonder where Emily is, or I wonder where my friend Bailey is, and I'll click on it. I'm like, oh, they're home, or they're working.
Yeah.
It's usually those two, or they're traveling somewhere. Like my friend Bailey was just, I think in Canada. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's in Banff. Like I get to follow her out there. So yes, I like to be a creeper to my friends sometimes.
It's funny because I'm like, I'll text them. I'm like, what are you doing in the middle of a field? They're like, this hasn't updated yet. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing over there?
I do too. I'm always like, I'm so nosy. I'm like, I just want to know what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
There's some people that I've met at TravCon too that we had at each other's locations and we still have them. And I'm like, I'm still going to watch what you're doing.
Exactly. You're like, you share the share indefinitely and then you just never delete it. You're like, oh, I'm gonna sneak on you or peep on you for as long as you know, unless you start noticing and you're like, I don't want you to follow me anymore.
Yeah, I know. And then it's like that awkward thing where it's like, Rachel quit sharing her location with you. I'm like, can we just like turn that off? But I always do that with my friends too. Whenever I travel, like they'll always have my location at all times because I'm like, I might get kidnapped. I was like, so keep an eye on my.
Yeah, and I'll be working on this next job, a later shift. It's not a night shift, but it's like a mid shift. And getting off at really obscure hours is just kind of, I'm not used to it. I'm a day person. I'm 7 a to 7 p period. So taking a new kind of obscure time, I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I gonna call at like this time? No one's gonna even be awake for me to, get from point A to point B. So yeah, even just thinking about that now, I'm like, shoot. But my house is very close, thankfully, to the hospital.
Oh, good.
So I think I'll be all right. I'll just buy some pepper spray and try to keep myself safe.
Yeah, might as well. Well, is there any advice for anybody out there that's, trying to build their community, especially I would say maybe like some introverts, if they want to, but they're just a little too shy, what would be maybe a few things that you would tell them to do?
I know this sounds super intuitive, obviously, but like it's really important to do things that are uncomfortable and get outside of your comfort zone. It's not easy. It's going to feel honestly like crap because that's not your normal. You want to, especially for introverts, you're like, no, I want to stay home. I want to relax. But once you find the people that really mesh with you and the people who really understand even just you being an introvert, you start building that small community and your vibe attracts your tribe. I'm sure you've heard that before, and it's very true. If you don't vibe with someone, that's totally okay. If you don't make friends on an assignment, that's totally okay. But honestly, using the MedVenture app just to see if people are in your area. And for me personally, again, I help run that Instagram page, Travel Nurse Takeover, even just messaging us and being like, hey, can you set up a chat for this small city that I'm in and see how it goes? Just reaching out to people, again, getting outside your comfort zone, messaging maybe your coworkers or talking to them at work. You hear them talking about, hey, we're all going to brunch after work, or we're all going to, a bar after work, or this concert. Not saying you should invite yourself, but just ask like, hey, I'm really interested in this too. Like, do you mind if I tag along with you? Because sometimes staff or even other travelers already know each other and they don't always think to ask the new person. I'm very much, if I'm interested in something, I have no problem expressing my needs in my life. I'm like, hey, I would love to come. No worries and no problem if I'm intruding or anything. I just feel like this would be a great opportunity for us to get to know each other. So getting outside your comfort zone, that's the biggest thing in the travel world, and it's the biggest thing with creating friends.
And I think as you keep having assignments and more assignments, that will slowly go away because you're kind of forced to get out of there. Well, do you have a favorite adventure that you went on with your tribe? Is there like a memorable moment that you've all had when you've been able to get together?
So this was actually last fall. I went to Maple Pass. It's a hike out here in Washington. And it was myself, my friend Emily, Alice, I think there was about 6 travel nurses who went. And it was just so beautiful. Like, I love Washington's nature. It is very grounding and just extremely humbling to, everything that's going on in the world sometimes when you just want a little slice of peace. So just going out there with some of my best friends and even some new people. And actually this year I did that same hike with a bunch of travel nurses too, now that I talk about that. And just being able to share that experience with people, you just look around at everyone, you're like, wow, this is my life. This is a really great opportunity to share with other people and to create for myself. Another, I would say this day goes down as one of the best days in my life is I have a running list of like favorite memories that I've had in my life. I went to, was it Diablo Lake up north, and it was a group of travelers. Half of them I knew, half of them I didn't, and we just had the most beautiful day. We went on a hike, then we paddle boarded on the water. The weather was just so optimal. The views were just insane, and it's those moments that I always just feel so overwhelmed with gratitude and just like thanks for this lifestyle, because it constantly reminds me that I would not be here if it wasn't for travel nursing. I wouldn't have met these people if it wasn't for travel nursing. So it just puts in perspective like how amazing this lifestyle can be. Of course, it comes with plenty of cons and in difficult times, but it's those moments that remind you like, wow, this is my life.
I know that's my favorite moment. Just like those moments, you're like, this is my life for real. Like, you're just looking up at a mountain, you're like, holy cow, like I get to experience this. And there's like, so much gratitude and so much love for it all. So, well, is there any last words or any advice that you want to give out to the community about, traveling and?
Yeah, I guess I would say, and I guess this is not necessarily super off topic, but it's okay if all of the things that you expected out of contract that you wanted to happen don't happen. It doesn't mean that you suck at travel nursing. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be, every assignment's not going to be perfect. And that's me giving advice to people, but also giving advice to me. Like, not every assignment's going to be beautiful, gorgeous, luxurious. You're not going to meet, friends at every single assignment, and that's totally okay. I've had one assignment here in Washington, and if I would have let that one assignment dictate the rest of my time here at Washington, would have done myself a huge disservice. I had the worst time at this hospital, and I would like go to work crying, like end work. It was a really rough time. And I'm sure a little bit of me is being dramatic, but it's just a tough hospital, tough environment, tough coworkers. But don't let one assignment deter you, and just kind of be open. Be very open to the opportunities that are to come, because you can really shut yourself off to things if you kind of go in very tunnel vision and like, this is what I want. Just be very open, flexible, and relaxed.
Awesome. Well, can you tell everyone where to find you if they want to talk to you or follow you?
Sure. So I think on both TikTok and Instagram, it's just my first name and my last name, all lowercase letters. So ReyAnn, ReyAnn Moya, MOYA, one word. I think that's all I have right now. Facebook is kind of obsolete at this point. I use it for the Gypsy nurse stuff, but I don't use it for anything else anymore.
Same here.
For those of you who are watching, please, like TikTok, you don't get to message unless we're friends, but please reach out to me on Instagram. I'm happy to be a wealth of knowledge for whoever needs connections with community or connections with hospitals, or what I do have anyways, or connections just in general on if you're having a hard day or you just want to chat.
Definitely the travel nurse hookup.
Try my best.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. We appreciate being in our community and being such a great voice and all of that. And we look forward to seeing all of your adventures. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.